Eagles fans? The preseason finale live from hot South Beach, Florida. This is the final look at the Birds before the 53-man roster is announced. 4 quarters left of summer ball. Who's going to earn themselves a job today? Welcome to the Kickoff Show, presented by Little Caesars. I'm Ella DiGiovanni, joined by Fran Duffy. Fran, you were down there in the Miami Heat this week. What were some of your takeaways from practice?
It was hot, number one. And look, it was a little bit easy to feel a little sluggish getting down there. You had the long week last week out in Cleveland for joint practices that were not easy. You get on a flight Sunday night. You come back down on Tuesday morning for a flight. Easy to start a little sluggish, right? But I thought the Eagles fought through adversity really, really well. Number 2, A.J. Brown continues his dominance. Number 1 rep against Xavier Howard, one of the best corners in the league. Number 1 rep in one-on-ones, and A.J. Brown comes through with a one-hander down the left sideline. And then number 3, Jordan Mailata, just an outstanding performance against a very difficult Miami defensive front. All the different things they do from a blitz package standpoint, I was really impressed with number 68. So I would say fighting through adversity, and then A.J. Brown, Jordan Mailata, my 3 big takeaways, especially through one day of practice against the Dolphins.
You alluded to that adversity. Let's paint the picture of what the Eagles have been through this week. Of course, last week they were in Cleveland. They played that Sunday preseason game against the Browns. They got on a flight Sunday night. They had a day off on Monday, repacked their bags, and they were down to Florida on Tuesday. They had their first joint practice against the Dolphins on Wednesday. Thursday, the Dolphins had to cancel practice from their end because they were suffering from a stomach bug was going around the team. So taking precaution, wanted to keep both sides safe. So the Eagles practiced solo on Thursday. Now they're here in their preseason finale playing on Saturday. So it's been a long 2 weeks, kind of a unique situation for the Eagles that you've seen throughout the NFL in this preseason, where they're playing these 2 back-to-back on-the-road joint practices, and now it's all coming down here tonight. Guys fighting for some jobs, Fran. Yeah,
and I can tell you that going over to the stadium on Thursday morning after that practice against the Dolphins was canceled, there were players on the bus that weren't sure, like, wait, you're telling me the Dolphins aren't practicing? Like, what are we doing? So those guys finding that out on the fly and still coming out and having a very crisp practice against each other. It was a basic training camp practice, what you would see on a normal day out there on the practice field. To come out and have that kind of day, knowing that things kind of changed on the fly, again, kind of responding to that adversity, and that's what we've come to expect from this Nick Sirianni coach football team.
In the one day the Eagles participated in joint practice with the Dolphins, head coach Nick Sirianni shared what impressed him most about the team, but more specifically, Jalen Hurts.
Yeah, you know, it was definitely a competitive practice, and I was glad our guys fought through some of the adversity that we had as far as the heat and just competed. Offensively, one thing that really stood out to me offensively was, the efficiency on third down. I thought was really good, and I thought Jalen was outstanding in yesterday's practice. To me, Jalen's practice yesterday was the best practice he's had as an Eagle. That since I've been here, I can't speak for the year before I got here. What he was doing with the football and being able to go through reads and progressions that fast and getting the ball to where it needed to go, I thought was unbelievable.
Best practice as an Eagle under Sirianni is what he said about Jalen Hurts. Big praise for the quarterback as he's settling into year 2 as the full-time starter. One thing I thought he said was interesting, Fran, was how the game is starting to slow down for Jalen Hurts, and that's why he's starting to play a little faster.
No question. And I think when you look at that practice, that performance on Wednesday against the Dolphins, if you were just watching the stands, watching on the sideline, you wouldn't think, oh, wow, like it's bombs away football and a bunch of different completions down the field. But I think the word that Nick Sirianni used there, efficiency. He showed the ability, Jalen Hurts, to get through his progressions. I mentioned how aggressive that defense is. No one in the NFL blitzed more than the Miami Dolphins a year ago. No one in the NFL played more press man coverage than the Miami Dolphins a year ago. So going into this week, not game planning for the opponent, just saying we're going to go out and just run our stuff. That's tough to go up on one day of practice and say that this is what we're going to do. I thought Jalen Hurts was really efficient with the football. Later in that press conference, Nick Sirianni just talked about some of those different plays and broke them down. And there was one completion in particular to Devontae Smith. It was the biggest completion of the day, a deep post route. And he said, we've run that play a bunch of times in practice. We've run it in games. I've never seen the post thrown on that play. So credit to Jalen for getting through his progressions, reading the defense and understanding on the fly, this is where the ball's going to go. And so to me, I think that kind of speaks to what we saw from Jalen Hurts on Wednesday, and again, against a very tough Miami defense.
The Crimson Tide was strong in South Beach this week. Bama boys all over the field. Hurts' longtime teammate, now Dolphins quarterback Tua Tagovailoa, spoke highly of Hurts' work ethic.
I think first things first, for Jalen, you know, when I went to Alabama, dude's a hard worker. In the weight room, in the classroom, and then on the field. Like, dude had to be the first into the weight room. He had to be the first out onto the field. You know, like sprints, he had to be first. So it really tells you how he goes about his life. It tells you about how he kind of sees things and how he looks at things. Obviously, he's a competitor, never wants to be last. So, you know, that should tell you a lot about him.
I love that quote from Tua because he's a guy who's been with Jalen since day one. He's known him since they showed up at Alabama. And what's interesting is some of the things he said in that quote specifically are things that Eagles teammates now say about Jalen Hurts. So speaks a lot to the guy in terms of his consistency. It seems like you always get the same football player. But as we've seen some of these quarterbacks warm up here on your screen, our warm-ups presented by our friends at PA Lottery, Gardner Minshew. He's been a big presence the past 2 weeks in camp because he's been taking much of the snaps in these games. Last week against the Browns, he played pretty well, 14 for 17, 172 yards. In his post-game interview, he said, "All I want to do is get better." Fran, how important is Gardner Minshew's presence in this quarterback room?
Oh, it's really important, not just because, he's the veteran presence and some of those traditional things you say about a backup quarterback, but Gardner Minshew is really competitive. Gardner Minshew is going to fight for starting reps. Gardner Minshew feels like he should be on the field every time he puts a helmet on. And so to have that kind of player next to Jalen Hurts, you just heard Tua Tagovailoa talk about how competitive Jalen is. Well, competitiveness, those guys typically thrive on each other and bring the best out of each other. And so having a player like Gardner Minshew next to Jalen in the meeting room, on the practice field, in the weight room, in the locker room, on the bus, every single step of the way, well, it's only going to make both of those guys better in the long run.
And then in preseason game number 3, you're probably going to see Reed Sinnett and Carson Strong as well. Who knows how much, but big opportunity for those guys who are fighting for spots on this roster as well. Let's move on to the running backs, huh? Miles Sanders out again this week, dealing with that hamstring injury. Another opportunity, of course, for Boston Scott to step up, as he always does. But also Kenny Gainwell right there behind him, who they've kind of been sharing a lot of these first-team reps these past few weeks in practice, Fran.
Yeah, and so last week we saw Boston Scott get the start. Kenny Gainwell came in for the second drive. Tonight it looks like we might see Kenny Gainwell get the start, so that's something to watch here. But I think when ultimately you look at both of these guys, you know that they can come in and be productive. Boston Scott, every single time his number is called since he's been here in Philadelphia. You want to run the ball inside? Sure, give it to number 35. You want to run the ball outside? Watch him scoot around the corner and out-leverage the entire defense. You want him to catch the ball out of the backfield? Remember that game-winning touchdown he had against the New York Giants in prime time a couple years ago? Yeah, Boston Scott can do that. And also, probably one of the best pass protectors on this team. So Boston Scott, he checks all of the boxes. And Kenny Gainwell, he has just shown time and time again that this guy has what it takes to be an NFL ball carrier. So the Eagles like what they have in the running back room. I'm excited to see both of these guys compete tonight. I thought Boston Scott, in particular, had a really strong week of practice down in Miami.
Boston Scott, Mr. Reliable, huh? Let's move on to the wide receivers. We talk about him a lot, but it's hard not to when he just absolutely shines in practice day in and day out. Of course, that is A.J. Brown. What did you see from him down in Miami this week, Fran?
Well, I alluded to that one-handed grab he had against Xavier Howard in one-on-ones. That was the first rep of competitive periods against that defense. And going up against one of the top corners in football, that was just great to see. And I just kind of chuckled to myself because there goes A.J. Brown again, just doing these things on a daily basis out on the practice field. Now, later in the day, he had one of those vintage A.J. Brown plays, short crossing pattern, catches the ball on the run. Jalen Hurts placed it out in front, and then A.J. Brown creates after the catch and creates a big play. But I think A.J. Brown, so much more than that, and he has shown the ability to win at all 3 levels of the field almost on a daily basis here during training camp and certainly in the preseason.
His numbers don't lie. When he got here to Philadelphia, the Eagles knew who they had as a playmaker. But Nick Sirianni this week talked about how he's been such a great fit for the culture here with this Eagles team. And I think the players across the board have agreed. Let's move on to the offensive line, shall we? Big opportunity tonight for some of the younger guys to get some playing time, get a lot of reps. And Fran, we talked about this a lot last week, that this second-team offensive line is as good as some first-team offensive lines on other teams across the NFL. Who are you looking forward to see tonight really step up in this opportunity?
Yeah, well, one of those guys certainly is the rookie second-round pick, Cam Jurgens. And we don't know when he's going to be able to get these kind of extensive reps again, right? So what we've seen here so far this preseason from number 51, the athleticism, absolutely. He's got it in spades. He's shown it a great ability to get out in space and make plays on the run. Very first play of the game, bug on a windshield against the Cleveland second-level defender, knocks him to the ground on that Boston Scott run to the outside. But what he's doing in the run game downhill, outstanding. Pass protection, he's showing the ability to make the calls and be that right-hand man for Jalen Hurts before the snap. And so we've seen a lot of really good things from Cam Jurgens. Hope to see more here tonight against the Miami Dolphins.
Bug on a windshield. I mean, you are just in mid-season
form. That's right. It's preseason for everybody. We're just trying to get better every day.
Bug on a windshield. All right, let's move to the defensive side of the football, Linebackers. A lot of talk about Hassan Reddick this week, who joined the team in the offseason. TJ Edwards was talking about Hassan Reddick's capability to cover everywhere, be everywhere. Jordan Davis was asked about Hassan Reddick. He said, dude, Hassan's good. But it's going to be interesting to see as the season winds on how these opposing offenses are going to prepare and game plan for a guy like Hassan Reddick, because he can be anywhere at any time. So how can they best attack a guy like Hassan Reddick, Fran?
One of my favorite things, Ella, and you know this from being out there every single day for training camp, and I'll miss this, not having these practices open on a daily basis now, but you're watching, you can't see everything on any given play. So you're watching the ball, maybe you're watching a matchup or how one specific player does on a given play, but then you hear coaches or players on the sideline yell for a specific player. I don't know how many times this summer I'm watching something else and I hear, great get off, Hassan. Great first step, Hassan. You see that explosiveness comes out every single time this guy steps on the field. I can't wait to see this guy rush the passer here in Philadelphia. That's what he's going to be doing more often than not. His versatility is going to be pivotal in this defensive scheme, and it's been wherever he's been in the NFL. But I can't wait to watch him just tear through opposing offensive lines on a weekly basis here this fall.
Moving up front to the defensive line, rookie Jordan Davis, defensive coordinator Jonathan Gannon said he's done a great job playing multiple spots and changing his technique based on the call. Fran, can you talk a little bit about how important that is for a young player, a rookie especially, to be able to react to what they're seeing on the offense that quickly?
Yeah, and that's the benefit of him coming from the defensive scheme that he did, because at Georgia, he was asked to do exactly that. I think everybody thinks of Jordan Davis, 6'4", 350 pounds, 6'6", 350 pounds, and you say, oh, well, he's just a run-stuffing nose tackle. That's all he is. Well, no. Jordan Davis, and he showed this at the Combine back in March, he is a freak athlete. And so you might ask him at times, yeah, you're gonna hold up the point of attack, you're gonna play two gaps, you're gonna play a gap and a half, just kind of hold the point and stuff the run inside. But it might be third down, and you could step outside as a one-gap player and just get up the field and penetrate. And Jordan Davis can do that. And his ability to be able to flex inside, outside, and do a number of different things between playing head up or in a gap, that is so important for a defense that wants to be multiple. We talked about it last week here on the Kickoff Show, how you need those versatile pieces up front to execute the scheme that the Eagles want to run. Well, Jordan Davis can do exactly that.
These joint practices have given Jordan Davis a good taste of NFL competition. Davis went on to discuss how the Dolphins' offensive line has helped him this week.
They tell me I'm strong, which is great. It's kind of hard, when you get in bull rush. But at the end of the day, it's all good work. At least the guys I went against, I'm not out here, talking crap or anything. So, they give me some constructive feedback. Literally today, one of their old linemen said I was too heavy. I was cutting inside. So, to be able to hear that and, just see what they see, because, I can only see from my point of view, but it's hear from their point of view. It adds to the experience. I'm always trying to learn. I'm always learning. So be able to do that and get constructive feedback from the opponent that we're going against is it just shows you, the type of respect that you see.
Fran, you only had one day to see the Eagles and the Dolphins duke it out in practice. What did you think of each side's performance?
I think ultimately, look, this was a defense that was really tough to prepare for. On Wednesday, I was studying the Eagles offense going up against the Miami defense. Talked about it on the Eagle Eye in the Sky podcast. And I thought that you saw the Eagles be really efficient with the football. We heard from Nick Sirianni earlier talking about Jalen Hurts and his performance, getting the ball rolling on the ground. You saw a lot of perimeter action, guys getting to the outside, Boston Scott, Kenny Gainwell, Jason Huntley making plays on the perimeter. So I think that was where this offense was able to excel against, again, a very tough Miami defensive front.
We now welcome in Eagles insider Dave Spadaro, who joins us live from Hard Rock Stadium. Dave, this is it. The final opportunity for a lot of these guys to secure a spot on the 53-man roster. At what positions can jobs be won tonight?
Yeah, Ella, I think there for sure are some jobs to be won, and I'm going to point to the wide receiver group. I think we know who the first four are, right? It's going to be AJ and Devontae and Quez and then Pascal. After that, Jalen Reagor. What do you make of some of these other young players? Deion Kane has been really productive. How many receivers will the Eagles keep on this roster? It's a great question. And I also include the practice squad where you can keep up to 16 players. I think that the offensive line, there's some young linemen that you always want to develop in the pipeline. Jeff Stoutland has had great success doing that. So I think tonight, very important for that. And then I look in the defensive backfield as you look at depth at cornerback and then safety. You know that it's going to be Harris and Epps. Is Jaquiski Tartt going to make this 53-man roster? I think everybody felt he would when he signed in the spring, but he really hasn't played a lot. He distinguished himself last week with some big hits. Tonight might be a pretty big moment for Jaquiski Tartt, an odd situation for a veteran in this league, but the Eagles are really competitive in that defensive backfield. So I think for sure some jobs are on the line for this evening.
Dave, you haven't missed a single training camp practice. Who has been your pleasant surprise player of the summer?
You know, when you sign somebody late in free agency, Ella, you go, maybe he really wasn't that much of a prospect after all. But the Eagles, when they signed Kaiser White, they told me he's around the football all the time. He's somebody who slipped through the cracks in free agency, and he's going to fit into this scheme. And when I've watched White play in practice, in the preseason games, he's been terrific. I think that he is a solid starter on the weak side. I think he can be really productive in this scheme. He's gotten himself in great shape. He's adjusted to a similar scheme that he had with the Chargers here in Philadelphia. He's done a great job with that. So he's my leading guy. I will also mention as honorable mentions Zach Pascal, Jack Stoll. I think those players have been outstanding as well, but I'm going to go at the top of the list with Kaiser White.
That was Eagles insider Dave Spadaro. Be sure to tune in to the live broadcast on NBC 10 as Dave will have you covered on the sidelines. He was quite entertaining last week, so the bar is set pretty high this week for Dave Spadaro. Going viral on Twitter. He better deliver today.
A very high bar to be able to clear, but I think if anyone can do it, we know that it's Dave.
Well, have you ever wondered what it's like to hit the road as an NFL player? Avante Maddox took us behind the scenes last week when the Birds traveled to Cleveland.
Cleveland, here we come. What up, Gotti?
Hey, here we are, Cleveland on the way.
Welcome to my cribs. Okay, bathroom. Got my little work desk right there. Bed, the couch on the side. See what Cleveland looking like. It's all right. Who you got your money on?
I got that.
Oh, you got who? Don't pick Zach. Hey.
Hello. We're here to beat the Browns. Get James in there.
Yeah, I got his head. Got you right here doing all the recording. I guess we both recorded each other. How you doing today?
No ball skills. Let me right, wrong. For war.
Rainy days.
The Kickoff Show is brought to you by Little Caesars, the official pizza sponsor of the NFL and proud partner of your Philadelphia Eagles. Order online today, Pizza Pizza. Fran, before we go, what's your Rico extra point?
Well, last week, after going through the film and the Eagles win over the Cleveland Browns and watching the game last Sunday night, they just went through time and time again the RPO game. Run game, pass game, a lot of RPOs. So I thought, here for this segment this week, I say, what is an RPO? Let's just kind of break it down. And it's something that we've seen in the NFL. It's not just a recent phenomenon. I know it's one of the key buzzwords over the last couple of years, but RPOs, run-pass options, they've been around for decades in the NFL. And how they initially started was just your quarterback going up to the line of scrimmage and having 2 play calls in the huddle. Hey, it's going to be a pass or a run, guys. I'm going to give you both calls, but depending on how the defense lines up, maybe it's a heavy box or a light box, maybe there's 2 safeties deep, well, then we'll hand the ball off. But if it's 1 safety, well, then maybe that we're going to throw the ball. So that's what it looked like previously. But then we saw the evolution of the RPO where you still have 2 plays, but it's going to have the run to the right, pass to the left, right? But now it's a pre-snap read. So before the ball is snapped, the quarterback, he's going to read, oh, you know what? It's a light box. Let's throw it over this way. Or it's a light box. We're going to run it. Well, now what you've seen is the evolution of the next step where it's a post-snap read. After the ball is snapped, the quarterback will read one defender and either hand it off or throw the ball. And ultimately, again, what that happens after the snap, the quarterback is just reading one defender, not one side of the field. So he might read this linebacker and say, okay, if he's going to crash down, well, now I'm going to throw the ball. If he stays back in coverage, well, now I'm going to hand the ball off. So no matter what, the defense can't be right. That's the idea with an RPO. If it's run correctly, the defense will never be right.
Well, kickoff's inching closer, Fran, and that'll do it for us here on the Kickoff Show. Be sure to join us on the post-game show presented by Rico. Immediately following the game, we'll have you covered. We'll have instant analysis and reactions from Nick Sirianni and players. Eagles and Dolphins, this is it. Preseason finale coming up in just a few minutes. Enjoy the game, and as always, go Birds.